Arsenal were this close to winning the Premier League last season. But to take the next step, they're going to have to make some excellent recruitment decisions. How do you improve this team? What do they do? Welcome to Sensible Transfers, where we look at squads' weaknesses and identify realistic solutions to those problems. And we do it not based on rumour, we do it looking at data and tactics and some opinion. And that's where we find the best players for teams to sign. But to do that, we have to work out what Arsenal actually need. And then we can look at what Arsenal's 5 problems are. 1. Scoring goals in open play. Does a striker fix this? 2. Progressing the ball quickly from the back. Does a midfielder fix this? 3. They already have a first team and you have to sign players who are good for the first team but also happy to be in reserve. 4. Their key players play too many games. And 5. What they really need is a difference maker. So we have to find solutions to all of those, and we're going to. And thanks to our fine reporters at The Athletic, we already know what Arsenal are up to in the market. For example, we know they wanted Benjamin Sesko, but he's unavailable, so it's not going to happen yet. We know they want Ricardo Calafiori, and that might happen. We know they want some goalkeepers, but we're not going to cover goalkeepers because goalkeepers are boring. And also we know they're probably going to sell some of their squad players. Players like Eddie Nketiah, Emil Smith-Rowe, and Reece Nelson. So we know they'll have some money to spend, but they have those problems to fix. And the first one we talked about is how they score goals in open play. Do they need a striker? Does that solve it? Because if you look at the numbers from last season, Arsenal were second in the league. They also scored the second most goals total with 86. And they also had the 4th highest non-penalty expected goals. Underlying numbers show they're doing pretty well, but it doesn't tell the full story. Because of those 86 goals Arsenal scored, 10 were penalties, which obviously aren't in open play, and 20 are listed officially as being set pieces. But I went through and watched every single Arsenal goal in the Premier League last season because I'm cool. And I noticed that actually it's about 27 goals from set pieces because official numbers don't include throw-ins or own goals or second phase of set pieces. So for example, if you have a free kick over here and Odegaard's about to take it, if you hit the ball into the box and you score from it like that, that counts as being a set piece goal. But if Odegaard was to go wide to this player, who moves out wide to this player, who then takes in the man and runs, and all the difference that you had in the box in the meantime in the build-up, then that goes in and they score, that doesn't count as a set piece. And Arsenal relied on that heavily. 42% of Arsenal's league goals last season came from penalties or set pieces. So would a striker fix this? Maybe, but what you have to remember is that Arteta's strikers do certain things. He doesn't need them to be just a goal scorer. He needs them to be able to have dialogue with the midfield, to lead the press, and also score. And in Jesus and Havertz, they have 2 players who can definitely do 2 out of 3 of those all of the time. So a different profile player would make the difference. They have Nketiah as more of a goal scorer, but he lacks the physical profile and the dialogue with the midfield. So Sesko kind of fits all of that. He also has exactly what Arteta wants in his players, which is a combination of great technical and physical attributes. Look at all the giants he signed. He signed Gabriel, Saliba, Rice, Havertz. He signed big players because it helps you be competitive, especially against teams who are also very physical. If you've got high technical level and high physical, you're going to have a better time on the pitch. So Arsenal already have forwards that fit what Arteta wants. If the right profile isn't available for a reasonable price, there's no need to really fix it just yet. They still score loads of goals. And actually, the problem might lie further back on the pitch. Because if we look at what Arsenal started the season with last season, this is what you have. And the problem that Arsenal found quite quickly was that teams sat back in a low block against them, and they found it difficult to progress, especially through the middle, because Declan Rice is not the pivot player that maybe it was hoped he would be. The idea was to have him as the 6 behind Havertz and Odegaard. Didn't quite work. Mostly Rice pulls out to this wide area here, but Arteta wants his left back to invert, and that's the same sort of space. So Arsenal will be mostly moving the ball out wide. It would be the same on the other side, and that was forcing Odegaard to drop in deep to help out, which meant they were then lacking someone further up the pitch to help move the ball forward. And so what happened obviously is Nketiah came out of the team, Havertz became the striker, false nine, whatever you want to call him, then you had Odegaard higher up the pitch, Rice is more of an attacking 8, and this is what the team became. It's roughly this that happened for most of the season. Jorginho became the pivot player next to Rice. And what I think they need now is someone who really complements what Declan Rice is great at. He's great at bursting forward with the ball, he's great at winning the ball high up the pitch, he's not great at being the pivot player. Now a couple of players we can rule out are Bruno Guimaraes, who would be absolutely amazing in this role, but would be far too expensive to bring in, and Frankie de Jong, who would also be great, and we've talked about him on Sensible Transfers several times before, but he's not only recovering from injury, he's also going to be very, very expensive. So we have one more perfect sensible transfer, and that sensible pick is Martin Zubimendi. Here he comes in here. Da-da-da-da. He can play alongside Rice as the 6. That's what he does. Now Zubimendi has been linked with Arsenal, so it's very realistic as well as being sensible, but there's a few reasons for it. First of all, he is metronomic, he's lovely to watch, he's got great progressive passing, and he fits the profile of what they need in that team. And what you see from Zubimendi are things like this. For example, this is him playing, this is a random game with this sort of forward passing that you see from him that Arsenal don't really have just now other than Jorginho. Zubimendi is circled here. He's always looking forward. He can see the pass that others can't. The ball goes in forward. He then becomes essentially the third man in this move because it's going to bounce back to him. But then rather than take a touch, he instantly looks forward and spots the forward run in behind this PSG back line. He plays that forward pass over the top. It almost gets the player through on goal, but it's this kind of forward thinking that you get in the tight situations, as well as being able to receive on the half turn in the pivot role from build up. Now on the con side, he's not very physical, he's not very fast, but it doesn't matter because he reads the game so well. Also, he does a lot of defensive actions. This is from the analyst. It's a graph of Zubimendi's defensive actions in the Liga from 21-22 and 22-23. As you can see, it's quite a lot. He's mostly in the central areas, but he can cover distances out wide to make sure that any mistakes that happen, he can clean them up. And that's what Arsenal need to have in that role. And the central pivot's really important. He'll play in the central role. Rice tends to go in the half space here. It might even be that they move to a double pivot system. This is something we can look at in a minute. Because something else that Arsenal have done is they're going to try and bring in Ricardo Calafiori, who will again change how they build up and how they attack. Now, what Calafiori brings is something very different to what Arsenal already have. He can play as a left centre-back, which is where he's played for Bologna, but also he started as a wide player, a left-back really. And so what you get from Calafiori is a player who can play as a left-back and overlap wide forward. He can come inside the pitch, but also he can come inside to help as an inverted fullback and play in this first phase or second phase of build-up. So that's going to be really important to what they want to do because they already have that. But the key to it is that he also likes to get forward and attack central spaces, and he'll do it just randomly during games. So Arteta's going to have a player, if they sign him, who can give you lots of options in build-up and in the second phase and third phase of play, so they can do all sorts of different bits. But if he's here, what you might then get to support Rice is someone who plays alongside him as part of this double pivot, because it might just free up the space. That means that Rice can cover one side, someone else can cover the other. It would also mean that Odegaard has freedom to move either side of this double pivot to help with ball progression. Either it's just this sort of pass here, or if they're building play here, he then becomes separate from everyone else and there's a little switch pass onto him on the side. But if they do change to a double pivot system, which is something that is very possible next season, what you'll probably need is a player who can play this, but also can deputise for Rice. Because one of Arsenal's big problems for me is that their key players play far too many games. So you had Rice on 37 starts and 1 sub-appearance in the Premier League. I think he played about 9 games in Champions League. Odegaard, very, very similar as well. So Arteta would like, probably in an ideal world, to have players who could just drop in and out and replace these players. But we know the key ones are going to be Rice, whoever plays here, and Odegaard. And so we need someone who's maybe a bit more of an 8, someone who can complement Rice does. And while Rice carries the ball, Mikel Merino, who they're also linked with and will be available for pretty cheap, maybe about 20 million, something like that, because he's 1 year left in this deal. He can come in. Now, Merino likes to play in this left half space as well, but Merino is more of a direct attacking player who likes to pass the ball. He's made the 7th most tackles of any player in the Liga last season, which is quite a lot, but also he can play on this right side as well. So you're going to have a player who could deputise for either of these. He's not the pivot player. If he goes forward, Rice would have to hold. But Rice can't play every single game all the time, so we can get a cheap player, 20 million-ish. That's a really good deal and makes it very sensible. But how about this? What if instead of Merino, we put in another Euros winner in Fabian Ruiz, one of my favourite players to watch at the moment. Let's take Zubimendi out, put him over here. So Fabian Ruiz is a beautiful player. He is the kind of player who can make something happen with a little turn, a tiny little pass, a 1-2 he spots that no one else does. He can also play in the first phase of build-up as a 6. He can then be in your part of your team as an 8. He can also drop in as a 10. He would solve a lot of the problems that they need in their team and might be available because PSG have Vitinha already, who's essentially the same sort of player. They're also trying to buy someone like João Neves at the moment. So there might be room to get him in for a reasonable price. And he's about 28 years old. He kind of fits what Arteta would like to have in all phases of play. He would be a great squad option and a good level first teamer. Because this is the important thing we're talking about at the start of this video, is that they need players who are first teamers, but who could also be in reserve. Think of Man City, constant squad rotation, but they're not really backups. They're just sharing the same spot because you can't play 38 games and all the Champions League games and all the cup games every single season. So Fabian Ruiz or maybe Merino in that position for me. But now the most important thing Arsenal have to do in the transfer market, the most sensible thing they can do, and that is sign a difference maker, especially in the final third. This is what they need. Martinelli in this wide area here is probably not a winger. He's probably more of an inside forward, could actually probably play as a striker as well. And so what you need is someone who can make a difference in a heartbeat, probably on this side here, who can maybe also cover on the right side, because Saka also cannot play every single game or his legs will fall off. And so what I'm thinking is a player who's explosive, who is tricky, creative, can do things at the highest level and is not already playing for a high level club, And the only real option we can possibly see is Nico Williams, who we suggest every single time in Sensible Transfers. Because Nico Williams is one of the best young players in the entire world. He's at Athletic Bilbao. Barcelona really want him, but he would be available for a release clause and then big wages. Williams can go outside or inside defenders, and that's really, really important for a couple of reasons. So if you're playing against teams who defend in a back four and a midfield three, so if you have someone like Martinelli, you know he probably could go on the outside, but what he really wants to do is attack inside. And so if you're a defender, what you can do is if you give him the ball, here it is, you can mostly try and just show him wide, knowing that you'll be able to stop him, but he wants to come inside here. And if you have that, what you can do is bring your midfielder across to block that, then block the outside, and then therefore it's kind of an easy way to shut down a player like Martinelli, who wants to play inside the pitch anyway. If you have Nico Williams, you have to put even more on him. Italy had to put 2 markers specifically on him to stop him from going past them, because he can go outside easily, inside easily. He also drifts through the middle to be a 10, and he goes wide, sometimes doubling up with Lamine Yamal for Spain. So you'd have 2 players, and then suddenly if that happens, the opposition team has to bring another player across to deal with this, and an extra one because they can both go inside or outside their man. So Williams would give you explosivity, unpredictableness, and just open up low blocks, because this is Arsenal's problem. They play against low blocks where there's no space. Williams can make things happen in that space. And the numbers show it too. He is the 5th most attempted take-ons of any player in the top 5 leagues from the last 365 days, and he has the 3rd joint most assists of any player in the top 5 leagues. He is top level. They have to sign Nico Williams. Look, he's one of the most relentless dribblers last season in the league. This is his numbers here, just for dribbling. And if you look here, you see long progressive carries. Nico Williams can just do everything with the ball, carry it, takes a team from one part of the pitch to the other in a heartbeat, and then produces things. Some wingers are able to go past people without producing anything. Williams produces. But Williams is not only very expensive for his wages all-round package, he's also very much in demand. And Barcelona specifically really want him. Yamal's there, that's his pal. He wants to play for Barcelona, we think. And so therefore, it might not be something they can get done. So who else could Arsenal sign that would give them a difference maker? Who is available who's not already playing at the elite level and would be reasonably affordable? Well, I have one more name that might be the solution to this. Now, what you want to do is look at clubs who have players who make them much better and aren't quite at the elite level yet. I'm talking players like Alexander Isak or Ollie Watkins or Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. These players, very, very expensive, so maybe not the kind of player you want. They would be great if they were to sign for them anyway. But I think Eberechi Eze of Crystal Palace would be a fine addition to the team. Now, Eze is also not a winger. I'll put Williams off, put Eze in here. He could play off the left, he could play off the right and give Saka a bit of a break, but he's more of a central player. Now, Martin Odegaard obviously starts there and will be there forever, but you can't play every single game. Eze would mean you don't lose out at all on having this player here. Equally, if it goes to being a single pivot system like this, you can play him in either of these sides here as a midfielder, and he gives you the X factor in the final third that few players can. Eze wins games on his own with a little short 1-2 burst or a shot from distance that just hits the back of the net and opens up tight games. Arsenal need to open up low blocks in the final third. Eze is one of the best possible players they could get, available at the Premier League, proven he can do it, that they could possibly get. So it's not perfect, but it is sort of sensible. I'm pushing the rules a little bit. But this is what I think Arsenal's sensible transfers team should look like come the end of the summer when they start playing properly. Williams on here, Zubimendi as a pivot player next to Rice possibly, maybe Merino on the bench, something like that, maybe Fabian Ruiz. That would be a sensible bunch of deals for Arsenal to make. And if you disagree with me, feel free to tell me so in the comments. I don't mind. Let's have a talk about it. Tell me who you think Arsenal should sign, who are your sensible transfers. That's what we have. Thanks for watching.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Amy Lawrence and Rafa Honigstein. With the latest transfer news and insight on every Premier League story that matters, theathletic.com puts you inside football, and you can try it free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.